All right, everyone, welcome back to the Aligned and Unstoppable podcast. I am so excited for this week's episode. It's a really special one. We're recording it in a very special, very unique way that we've never done before. And that is my guest, Sara Willerson, is actually sitting outside right this second while we're recording with 4 horses with her right now, one of which is very, very close in proximity to her. And I had the pleasure and the privilege of being introduced to each of them individually and sort of learning who they are, what their personalities are like, and what they're here to help teach and help share with us. Before we get into this episode, first of all, I was just telling Sara, like, I'm probably going to be crying during this one because I already started a little bit because the energy, which you probably feel as well. Oh my gosh. Hi. She is like right next to you. Oh my goodness. Oh my gosh. So the energy on this episode is going to be pretty amazing. I'm sure you can already feel it. So I'm going to kind of take a breath and come back to the beginning. So Sara Willerson is from horsesheartandsoul.com, and she reached out. So I was just telling her before we started recording is that I get a lot of people reaching out to want to be on the podcast, and some people are kind of these blanket emails that could have basically been written to just for anybody. Sara reached out, and there was something about her email that kind of struck me. And so I immediately went over and started checking out her social channels and looking about, like, who is this person? What does she do? Horses, that sounds kind of cool, but what? And there was just something about her, and my energy lit up. I got so excited. I'm like, she's doing something really magical over there, and I want to be a part of it. And as I say that, I get full goosebumps. And a lot of you guys who are listeners, I'm already starting to cry. You know what it's like when you connect with somebody soul to soul, heart to heart. You know that feeling when you get that kind of, wow, that person's the real deal. And that's exactly how I felt about you, Sara. So that's why I wanted to welcome you to be on the podcast. So any case, I would love to hand the mic over to you and have you introduce yourself and maybe just sort of how you got to this place where you are, and share a little bit with the listeners about what you do.
Sure. Emily, thank you so much for including us on this. It makes me cry because in a similar way, I really, you and I talked about this, but I think it's important to say I really feel like this is very spirit guided for us to connect in this way. And just for your listeners, I was drawn to Emily because this was a couple of months ago, and I was sitting in my meditation space and just looking at ways I wanted to expand what we were doing and just spread the message of the power of these horses. And I was thinking, oh, that'd be fun to like find some other people maybe we could do an interview with. And I happened to check my Facebook feed, and I saw Emily's sponsored ad there. I was like, who is that? and likewise, I looked at all your stuff, and I just felt this immediate kinship with you. So I reached out. All right. So a little bit about me. And if you have questions, please ask me.
Oh, I will. Yeah, for sure.
Right. So a lot of people ask me why horses, and I guess that's where I'll start from. My paternal grandfather introduced me to them when I was very, very young. And so I remember he put me on his little pony that was this little black and white pony named Spice. And I remember sitting on Spice and just feeling like, this is home. And from then on, everything was horses for me. I wanted to like pretend like I was a horse, play like a horse, being out in nature, climbing trees. Those were all really important aspects of my childhood and growing up. And, so I didn't have my own horse until I was a teenager, but, always begging my parents, please have a horse, please, please. And so I could do riding lessons and summer camps like that. And then when I was 14, I finally was able to have my own horse, and his name was Pooh, like Winnie the. And
Yeah.
I found him in the classified ads of the newspaper when they still had such things. And again, when I saw the ad for this horse, it really didn't say much. It said his age and what kind of horse he was and what he did, and I was like, that's my horse. And at the time, I was only 14. I couldn't drive, and so the college student that was driving me and my sister around to things that summer, I talked her into taking me out to see this horse and made her swear not to tell my parents. And so we did, and I got same thing. I was able to sit on him, and I was just like, this is
Yeah.
my partner. And
Yeah.
at 14, I didn't have words for that, but it took a little while, but we finally were able to be together, and he was with me for over 20 years in my life. So he really, I believe that he helped raise me,
Yeah.
because being a teenager is hard and sucks,
Yep.
for a lot of people. And I am absolutely an introvert and very, very shy by nature. Um, and so the thought of sharing my feelings or my insight about things, especially, that was not something I could do at that time in my life. But what I saw very clearly and experienced very clearly was every day I was with Pooh, I could see that he could see exactly what I was feeling inside of me. He knew what was going on. He knew what I was thinking about. He knew what I had walked through in my life, whether I was conscious of it or not. And he always took it away and made it better. So
Mm.
I knew at a really young age there was something very special going on, at least in my relationship with Pooh. And I didn't know if other horses did this, and I was not about to ask any of the other people around me because they already thought I was very weird and they didn't need any more ammunition against me. So I just kept it to myself that I had this incredible relationship with my horse. And, fast forward in my life, he was, it's probably when he was about 30, and I had just, I'd gone through a divorce, and funny, I was 32. And my father gave me a book for Christmas that year that transition in my life happened. And it was written by Linda Kohanov. It was her first book called The Tao of Equus. And she wrote about a healing program she had put together between her horses and people. And she also is one of the first people that started to put research behind the fact that there really is something happening when we partner with horses in a therapeutic setting. And so
Mm.
for me, while I was reading this book, I was bawling, because number one, she was putting words to every experience I had with Pooh.
Of
And then
course.
also it was incredibly validating of, I'm not insane. This is really happening. And then also I had just gotten my license to be a social worker. So by profession, I'm a psychotherapist, and I have a master's in social work. And I just gotten my LCSW. Well, no, I just gotten my LMSW. And, I was working in an office job, and going to see my horses at the end of the day still is my, self-care practice. And the thought that I could create a job out of my passion for horses and my love of helping people in their healing process. I mean, it was just the biggest. I was like, oh my God, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Thank you. Finally. And pretty shortly after that, Linda offered an apprenticeship program to train and what she was designing in terms of her method. And so I signed up for that and was accepted. And you talk about kind of spirit guided events. I got the acceptance letter for that program on my birthday that year. So I was
Wow.
like, okay. And then just everything lined up to make it possible for me to go. And it was just so beautifully easy. And I just trusted, and I did. And so that's what got me on my path.
Wow. And so, I mean, did you start off where you are right now, physically where you are right now? Was an evolution to get there? Or did you? Okay.
Yeah, really good questions. So no, I was living in the city still, and so my horses were living at boarding barns because that's what I had to do. And at that
Yeah.
time, when I started, I still had Pooh, and I had another horse who was much younger. His name is Magno, and he was a little bit too immature to step into this, but he watched a lot, and that's
Yeah.
good. I
Yeah.
wanted him to observe, and because this is intense work for them,
Yeah.
and it's important that they're ready to do it. So no, so I started in just working with the the managers of boarding facilities where I had my horses living, and they were so respectful of what I was trying to do and so supportive. And, so anytime I had a client coming, I always knew I had a very sacred, confidential space where we could work. And that's what we did. And as word kind of spread through the barns of where we were, of what I was doing, people would invite me to meet their horses and ask, you are welcome to include my horse in this work you're doing if they want. And so I got to have kind of an extended that I got to play and work with people. And so that was a lot of fun. And
just for the listeners, you're located, you said, about an hour north of Dallas?
Yes.
Okay.
Now I'm in a little town called Pilot Point.
Okay.
But I started my practice in Houston because I was living there at the time. And I am originally from Dallas. And I moved back to Dallas in 2005 and again kind of started in where my horses were living. And then about 10 years ago, I was able to have my own place, which has always been part of my dream, that I get to live with my horses and we create a healing space for people to come to. And so that's where we are now.
Love that. So let's take us on the journey. I mean, just to hear that other people were volunteering their horses, that means a lot about you and what they've heard about your reputation, and about the benefits of the work that you do. Plus that they're open to say, also, it could be very therapeutic for my horse to be part of this program, just as much as it's therapeutic for the humans. Can you share a little bit about that? Because a lot of people may be aware that there is some therapeutic qualities to animals, and specifically for horses and for people who've maybe never sat or been near a horse. Can you share a little bit more? Because before we got on, you were introducing me to each of your horses and what they really teach. And I thought that was really powerful. So maybe just like an overall of what that is, and then maybe even just more specifically about each of your horses that you're working with today.
Yes, and if you want, so part of, I'm working on shifting from identifying some of my gifts as weirdness and saying that they're gifts, right? So
for sure, I hear you. Everybody listening is like, me too, sister.
Right. So I'm just gonna own it, right? My weirdness / gift, one of them is I hear what horses are saying, and so I love to sit down with my journal and write down their messages. And actually, Sara, who was standing here with us before, she shared a message with me that she wanted me to say just about what exactly is happening when we step into their presence. So if you want, I can read that first.
I would love that. She kind
in
of
my official journal.
Yeah, it is. It's official.
My comp book. Okay, so Sara is talking about what happens when we step into the space with them. Mm-hmm. And she says, when you step into our space, our energy connects with yours. There's a pulse of touch that occurs, and this is before human hands reach out and physically touch. Our role is to wake the energy around you, the energy that is you. There's a knock, a vibrational ripple, if you will, that occurs. This opens the connection channel inside you. All beings have this, plant, animal, mineral, and humans. And humans have been convinced that the mind, the brain, is the answer to all. Mindful is a funny term, as it only focuses on a mind full of stuff. This is not the way Spirit created us all. We are created to connect and flow with the earth, the vibrational field between us all, and our connection to Spirit, Source, and the primary essence of who we are.
Gosh, that's wisdom if you ever heard it. I don't know how you guys are feeling as you hear those words, but I can tell you how I'm feeling, which is I have goosebumps all over my body. I actually can taste minerals in my tongue, which when Spirit comes through, especially past loved ones, especially, I'll taste metal. And so I'm starting to taste a little bit of that. She's sharing such ancient wisdom, and she's got a good sense of humor too, doesn't she?
She does. She is funny.
Just awesome. I fully resonate with that message.
Mm-hmm.
fully.
Mm-hmm.
So let's keep talking about your weird stuff because I like weird.
Me too. It's fun.
Around these parts, we're into weird.
Yes,
Um,
I'm good with that.
and that's really where I feel like, you know, we can get scared to share our weird because it's weird, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually what helps people resonate with you, your messaging, and the stuff that's wanting to come through you. And when we try to control how that looks, we actually really constrict that flow. And so
Mm-hmm.
I'm here to wave my freak flag around a little bit.
Woo-hoo!
And I want you to do the same.
Yes. You know, and it's interesting because I would say, you know how the people that you get to the privilege of working with, it kind of shifts the themes of what people are sharing and presenting. And I will say, um, pretty concentrated now for the past year and a half. People who are asking to work with us are people, you know, that I would identify as highly creative, highly sensitive. They're out of the box. You know, people have labeled them with all sorts of ridiculous things for a very long time. And you know that they are just empaths. You know, they're really looking for ways to embrace their weird and who they are because they've never found that support space, of that this is okay, that we are like this. And I'm put myself in that category for sure. I mean, you know, I've been told things like that all my life, you know, that's too emotional, you're too sensitive, blah blah blah. And those are gifts, and
sure.
that's where this herd, especially this herd, works from. Teaching that reminder that those are gifts of who we are and how important it is to learn how to embrace them and walk with them and live with them. And that's a big focus of the work that we do. That's
Absolutely.
right. I don't know if you could hear Serenade. She just went,
You got to get this out.
That's right.
Well, it's funny. I had a friend who introduced me to this book about highly sensitive people, and I started listening to it. I mean, obviously, I'm a highly sensitive person. I think we all can establish that. But I know my children are as well, and they've told me that since before they were born, and I've connected with them, and I've known this. And so I'm like, I think it'd be beneficial to read this. Oh, and by the way, my husband's also very highly sensitive. But he's better having like a little bit more of like a hard candy shell, I would call it, is, you know, more protective, and I think we're a little bit more open. And so you're right, it's like we get labeled, we get put into these boxes, we get pushed off or told that, you know, no, you're not listening, you can't hear horses talking. Or, you know, my parents said, no, you know, your grandfather's been gone for a number of years, you're not talking to him. Or I remember the first time I felt guidance around me, and I actually would like run out of the room because I could feel them following me. I was like, there is something stuck to me. And I look in the mirror, and no, everyone would dismiss it. No. And so I think it is important for us to normalize it and to say, actually, yeah, this is a gift. And it's not only you. There's a lot of people, we have our own little things. And so I feel like they're trying to get a word in edgewise right now. They're kind of all creeping over like, can I say something?
Yeah. I think they want to lead everybody in a little bit of a guided meditation.
I would love that.
Let me just a second.
Go for it.
Okay. So the way I like to just set people up in doing this, and you probably have a similar practice of this, but just making sure people are seated really comfortably and that they're not driving or have other distractions going on, right? Because that's not safe, and safety is very important, right? Especially if we're going to an alternative place.
Of course.
So I just invite everyone to, if you can play along safely right now, that you're seated in a comfortable space, that your feet are flat on the floor, and just taking some really deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. And allowing whatever you're sitting on to hold your body, that you don't have to worry about that right now. And that your feet are connected with the earth, as she is our source of support, always. And whether it's engaging your imagination or in your mind's eye, or maybe you hear this wisdom, or you actually see it, or you feel it, however it is you take in information, know that there's a herd of horses with you. If you can see them, see how they show up around you. It may be members of this herd, it may be horses that you know, maybe horses you've never met before. But just knowing that this is the spirit of horse that's surrounding you at this time to share this message. Just take a moment to say hi to them. Notice the physical sensation you feel in their presence and where you feel that. And this spirit of horses, they're asking just to remind you of the gift of who you are. And so allow them to take a moment to connect with you. Maybe they reach out and touch you in some way. Maybe they ask you to go with you somewhere. Maybe they simply show you this gift, that they're reminding of who you are, where it resides in you, and the importance of sharing that in the world, especially now. So important. Because that's part of why they're here, is to help raise the vibration on this planet and help all of us step into our weird gifts, because it's needed. And if you don't understand what the horse is sharing with you, you can ask them to explain it in a different way. And just taking a moment to thank them, knowing that they're right there walking with you. They're part of the support tribe we're all creating together. And if they took you somewhere, go back to where you started. Going back the way you came. All parts of you coming back. And as you're just slowly taking some deep breaths, allowing yourself to come back into this time, this moment, the space where you are, your feet on the ground where you are, and the room that you're in, or space that you're in. And one more deep breath to gently open your eyes.
I have tears streaming down my face.
I do too. That made me cry.
Wow. When you brought us in and invited those horses to come in, it was like this huge surge of unconditional love. And one horse stepped forward, and she's just like jet black, and it's like almost shiny, like blue or like silvery, like so shiny. And she said her name was Lady.
Mm.
And she just held me, like she leaned in and we were like heart to heart. And she shared a message with me about don't let the pain of others dim your light. And it was really interesting because exactly at that time you were also kind of just sharing this similar message about what they're here to help us do. And she also felt very much like a guide and kind of reminded me, you know, if you need a hug, if you need to be held, that she's always there to be there and to take that on and just hold me. And then she didn't take me anywhere. It was just like she leaned over and it was just heart to heart and so warm and embracing, so beautiful, and just so pure. And that was incredible. Thank you.
Oh, I love that. What a beautiful, powerful message.
It was. It really.
What a gorgeous being, too. I can see her.
That's exactly what I needed today as well. So what a gift. Thank you. Told you guys I was gonna cry. I mean, it went down my shirt. I have a V-neck on. It was like it was going down my shirt. So I would love for you, if it's okay, to introduce the ladies and the gent with you, if that's okay, and just share their message, because I think what you shared with me was really powerful, and I think it's just cool to hear what different personalities, different horses, their life path, and what they've gone through to help teach us something with as well. It'd be really lovely if you could introduce them too. We will share the video as well, so we'll figure that out with how to put it like on YouTube or however we decide to do it. But we'll see. Yeah, fun. So we'll share the video as well for sure.
Okay. All right. So that means I need to like I'm just kidding.
Oh no. I didn't put on makeup and I'm like, this is fine. I'm like rolling my eyes out.
I tried to clean up for you. Normally this isn't.
You look great. You wear my favorite color.
Yes, I would love to introduce them. I mean, because they're my partners. And I think that is one of the most important things that I always feel called to share, is to really invite people to see all animals, right? But especially those we partner with, as sentient beings. Yeah. Because they do have thoughts and feelings and dreams and desires. And, they're not they're not objects. Yeah. So, we were talking about this a little bit earlier, but each of them has come into my life in a different way. Right now, there are 4 horses in our herd. The largest herd I got to work with was 7. That's a lot of work. As much as I love them, that's a lot. So, but right now we're 4, and that's fine. And if there are other horses that come in, I'm open to that. I'm sure you can imagine, like, I get a lot of calls and emails about, I have a horse, can you take it? And so I'm saying this from the only reason why I'm sharing this is that I think horses all have their own gift that they're here to share in this world. And they're all very, very unique in terms of the gifts that they are asked to share. And I think this is a very specific, what is the word I want to use? That's so hard. I don't have like a human word to go with it, right? So, anywho, we'll just skip over that. Anyway, here's a different way to say it. That I feel like they're called to do different things, right, in their lifetimes. So, anyway, I don't know why I just said that, but for what it's worth, I did. That's good. So, I'll start over here. This is Sara, and she is a Mustang. She is going to be 25 years old in 2020. And she's been a part of this herd for about 8 years now. She did live wild and free. She is a Pryor Mountain Mustang, so she is originally from a herd that is in Wyoming. And actually, this group of Mustangs is really special because they've done genetic testing on them and found them to be the descendants of the Spanish conquistadors' horses.
Wow.
So you picking up on that ancient wisdom is right on,
Wow.
because she absolutely carries that original ancestral piece.
Wow.
And that is a lot of what she loves to teach and share, is kind of that ancient earth connection wisdom. um, I I got connected with her. She was at a horse rescue about an hour away from where I am now, and it's kind of funny. All of a sudden, usually I'm like, "Oh, we need another horse in the herd," and so I get on Google and I'm like, What do we, who needs to come to us?" And all of a sudden, I get Mustangs. Mustangs would be great. Would a Mustang be a great healing partner? I knew nothing about Mustangs, and so I see that there are two that are located pretty close by, and I went and looked at her pictures on their website, and I immediately just drawn to her. And the other thing is, she very much physically resembles my horse poo.
Wow.
So there was that special
Oh,
piece for me. Same coloring, very similar markings on the face and legs. Yeah, could be cousins in a way. But he wasn't a Mustang.
yeah.
And so it took a while for this rescue to allow me to see her, because she didn't want to be touched. I mean, they were pretty clear about that. And they didn't understand why I would want to adopt her, because they're like, "You can't touch her." And I'm like, "It's okay.
Look
I
at her
don't
come
have
right
to."
over.
Yeah, yeah, she likes to play. And so I went to meet her, and my whole world got turned upside down, right? I'd never been around a being whose energy was like a lit match. I mean, everything was just on. It was alive. I mean, she woke me up to the core of my being. I had to throw out everything I'd been taught about horses and working with them. Just because I knew in my gut that I could never approach her from that way of, "You got to be boss, you got to make her." And so when I finally did bring her home, I made her the promise of, "You get to set the timeline on how we're creating a relationship." And she had a halter on her. She got it off. Fine. And I'm sure you can imagine I got a lot of blowback
Oh, sure.
from a lot of people, both like known and unknown.
Mhm.
Social media is such an interesting.
Mhm.
So I'll leave it at that. But because I know that this horse and I have a very powerful relationship, I don't have to have my hands on her
Yeah.
for us to partner and do things together.
Mhm.
Um, and I will say it took her about 4 years before she let me know that she was ready to try physical touch. The conversation she always had with me about it, when I asked, "Well, why?" She was like, "Yeah, why? Why is that your way of
Right.
connecting? Because we're connected right here. Don't you feel that?" And there's a
Mm.
very visceral connection line
Mhm.
that we experience with her. And I don't know if you can feel it just right there, since
Oh,
she
yeah.
has like stepped right up.
She just took like two big steps towards you as you said that too.
Yeah, it's visceral.
Yeah.
Um, and so the beauty of what she teaches is, how do you create relationship from that in between space, right? Of that energy that's in between us all, and
Mhm.
connecting from that deeper heart space versus the agenda of beliefs we're taught, and and the mental process, right? That everybody models a lot of times, right? That really is this deeper heart piece. And that's the basis of relationship. So consequently, she is a brilliant couples therapist.
Oh, I can imagine. I'm gonna take a photo of her right now because there's
Yeah.
these beams of light just coming, like beaming off of her right now. She's just incredible. So relationships, I mean, and I actually, what I just kind of felt in between your words as you're talking about the in between space is like what she is saying is, why does there have to just be this way? And It's so true. We're kind of taught to control and to conform into certain ways, whether it is in our communication, in our connection, in our business, and any pieces of our life, that this is like the only way. And she's like, there's not black or white. There's all these shades of gray, and I can teach you how to access those.
Yes. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. Because she really, I mean, immediately when we step into the space with her, she immediately will let you know, nope, you're in your head, you have an agenda about this. That's not where I'm partnering with you from. But you know, the second you drop it and you come into your heart, and that you're connecting from that space, she's willing to partner with you all day long. Because that's where she's coming from, right? That's where horses are coming from. It is a very heart-based relationship space. You know, that's why, you know, I'm sure anyone who's listening to this, whenever they've seen a horse or stepped into the space around a horse, you know, kind of like the message I shared that she was talking about before, it's like your heart opens up, and all of a sudden you're like, and to me, that's part of it. To get us back in our heart. And a big phrase that they have shared a lot with me is helping us step back into the heart of who we are.
Really. And I'm actually feeling like this huge pull in my third eye of like, you know, that's where we open up our intuition, our psychic abilities. And so I mean, I can imagine her sharing a lot of that wisdom that she's got psychically. It just feels like this, like real huge expansion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
She's so tapped in.
Mm-hmm.
And so sharing about unconditional love, sharing that loving feeling, you spoke to me about boundaries as well, of sharing about people's boundaries, about her boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, as she little nuzzles up to you with her nose. Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. And you know, so a piece just around her boundary teaching is you know, respecting another being's boundaries, right? That we don't have the right to just barge into somebody else's space and take from them. You know, I think that's kind of part of, I don't think, that's part of the piece that she has done a lot of personal healing around, because humans took so much from her, right? They rounded her up. They took her away from her home. They took her away from her family. They took everything from her. And, you know, she had no say in that. And, you know, I think, I don't care what kind of being you are, I think you can relate to some part of that message and what that would feel like. And so just, you know, the importance of the invitation, right? And asking permission, and then also seeing what is that other being saying about your ask, and what do they need to feel comfortable in the two of you creating a connection space that's balanced. You know, and it's not one-sided. I mean, this is it's so interesting to me when people in the horse field talk about leadership with a horse, right? Because a lot of times it's presented as a dictatorship, really, that they have to, and that's not the way they are. And, you know, in the way they are by nature is they're a herd animal. You know, they live together, and that's their family, and they all have a role in their family, and it is all very connected. It is, a lot of times their roles can be shifting and fluid. You want to talk about that too? Yes.
Yeah.
Because she's the boss. Yes. You know, and that it's always a conversation going on. It's always about creating harmony and balance. Those are big words that I hear from them all the time, and that I see them, you know, navigating with each other all day long when they're in the pasture, you know, just grazing.
Yeah. So does it feel like when you're adding a new member to your herd, does it feel like a request from them? Like there's sort of an imbalance or we're looking for that next, I don't know, piece to bring that next level of harmony, to bring that next level in? Or does it feel, I mean, you're probably just intuitively picking up from everybody and yourself, all of it together.
That's interesting. I haven't been asked that before. I don't know if I remember any of them ever asking for. I usually what happens for me is I get some kind of hit of we need to add another member to our
Mm,
herd.
mm,
Yeah.
cool.
And um and then usually the right horse shows up.
Right.
Hmm.
Have you felt like there's ever been a misfit, like it wasn't quite a match with the rest of the herd? Has it ever happened to you?
No, not so far.
I could
No,
imagine.
no. I mean, what part of what I do is I will go and meet horses in person.
Yeah.
So, I can experience them and really see them,
Yeah.
because that helps me, and
Mm,
certainly many times I've done that and it's like, no,
mm,
this being is not the right fit for who we are and what we're doing. And, there's nothing wrong with that.
mm,
It's okay.
mm. That's so interesting that you just said that too. My husband and I were talking about that exact concept of uh, my online business and how you only can read and feel so much from people online that it's not the same as how you show up with somebody in person, and that integrity and that connection. As much as we can, try, there's still this shield, this blocking us.
Hmm.
And I thought he brought up a really excellent point in that, especially when you're screening for somebody for a program and you're like, wow, I didn't see that coming. But that's because they were so protected. You couldn't necessarily pick up on it or shield it. You couldn't ask the right question to get that specific thing out. But that in person, whether it's bringing a new horse into the herd or it's bringing somebody into a program, you feel so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah.
And I do feel, that is something that I really crave being an online business, is that in-person connection, which is why I do live events or retreats. It's like your soul craves it. And actually I was telling Sarah before we started recording, like there's something that we need to do together, whether it is virtual or more than that, in person.
Yeah, she likes
She's
it.
like, uh-huh.
Yeah.
Mhm. She's like nodding. Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Keep going. Keep
Okay.
going. She's like, get her here. How long
Uh-huh.
is the flight to Texas?
Right. Not far.
No,
No.
not at all. And I mean, I also feel like one of the actually brings me back to the meditation is that when you started calling that energy, I could feel my feet connecting with Mother Earth. I could feel myself being outside with the fresh air. And we have a backyard farm in my house. We have an organic farm. We have a bunch of chickens and ducks, and
Yeah.
it's something that my husband and I really love to do. And it's winter right now, so we don't get to really play as much outside, although we do still get out. But feeling that you kind of brought in with your meditation, that energy was awesome. And even just watching you outside right now, it's like it's beaming at me. So
Yeah. It translates through this.
totally,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so we talked about Thera. Let's talk about, I know, Domino. She's like,
Hey.
I'm here. Would you like to speak about me?
Right. Right. So these two, they work together a lot.
Yeah.
So Domino she is 16
Mm-hmm.
this year. She's been with me 5 years, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
She is a very severe trauma survivor. I'm not going to go into details, but she's had kind of multiple events of trauma that were at the hands of humans. Um, and she actually was at the same rescue where Thera was a long time ago. So they knew each other
Oh,
before they
wow.
came here. Yeah. And I remember when I was first visiting Thera, Domino was still there, and I was very drawn to her, and I would always go say hi to her. And she was really shy, but would always take a carrot. But she had been adopted, and she was waiting for her new family to come and take her home. And then it was probably like 2 years later that I saw a post for her on a horse rescue site, and I was like, oh my God. And I reached out to the rescue, And I asked, what happened? And they said that it wasn't her new home, but a trainer that they had sent her to really just blew her up, essentially. And so she didn't trust people at all after that. And so again, I just kind of felt a calling of she's supposed to be part of our herd.
Yeah.
And so she came, and she has done tremendous healing work with herself of just creating trust again. And the beautiful piece that she really does is, especially with people who've experienced trauma in their life, she loves to partner with them. And part of it is she opens a very safe space for people to share their story of what's happened. She helps them step into some of the energy that's in their heart around that. And so, Brene Brown talks a lot about vulnerability, and Domino really teaches people and opens the space for people to feel what embodiment truly means. You do too.
I had to say something. I feel like Sarah keeps wanting to talk about something. She doesn't want to pass the mic yet. Look at her. She's kind of doing.
Yes.
So I don't mean to. I'm sorry, Domino. We'll get back to you. But for a second, why does Sarah keep bringing up Buck?
I think she has a message for you, so I'm gonna let her share that with you directly if you want to.
Sure.
Take a minute and connect with her.
I just keep hearing, not everything is the way it seems from the outside. Not everything is the way it seems. And in reference to what I was just look at her.
No.
So she's so funny. Because that movie or whatever, I guess.
Oh.
It was like, it's not everything. Not everything you see that's not everything.
Right. Yeah.
And I think actually she kind of brought up too of what's the word? Authenticity, about bringing that authenticity, and like, not everything is the way what it seems, but actually bringing forward that. Look at her. She's like, that's not quite it. What did I miss? She's like, she'll get it right. Is she telling you to tell me? She's like, she did this like, okay, she'll tell her.
Sometimes it's hard for me to channel on the fly, so hold on.
It's okay.
It's okay.
Take your time. And if we need to, we can edit it out, but I actually think this is great. So
she's and I don't mean this in a mean way, right? She's demanding, she's clear, and this is part of her personality for sure.
I get it.
She stomps her foot too.
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
She's like, I'm new to now. Do this.
I know. I'm new to this, Sarah. Give me a second.
Okay. I got to write down what she's saying.
It's okay.
And yes, and also I have cookies down here too. Hold on, I'm coming.
Nudge, nudge,
All
nudge,
right,
nudge.
I have to write. Be patient, please. Come on.
We're only human after all. Domino's like, am I gonna get a turn?
No, this is their show today.
She like nudge, nudge.
So there's a piece about power and the energy of power, um, and I mean what she said so far, and I think this is something for me to sit with a little bit longer. And if you want, I can do that and then share with you
That's
in an
fine.
email what she's saying. But
Yeah.
what she said so far, she's calling the. She said the peace is in the power. Not all who lead understand this concept. Power is the energy, the force of spirit that resides in the heart. It's the flow of who you are guided to be and walk in this lifetime. And then,
Thank
so
you.
yeah, I can share more, but I think that's interesting that that movie got referenced because I think there's um, there's a lot of discussion around what was going on all through that movie and some decisions that were made,
Oh, really?
and a lot of differences of opinion.
Huh.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know when I mean, it must have been at least 3 years ago, or I don't know when it was when I even saw that, but it just, just, she kept bringing it up.
The horse that was so angry in the movie that they made the decision that they were going to put him down.
Oh,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Now I'm getting a full chill on that one. Okay.
Mm-hmm. And okay. So, that concept of being misunderstood,
Yeah.
and I'm not speaking for the movie, but I'm speaking of what I've learned, especially from, well, actually all four of them.
Yeah.
All four of them have been misunderstood by people and been labeled as like difficult or problems or things like that, and it's not true. Really, it comes down to the human not taking the time to really sit with them and learn and understand and hear from them about who they are and what they need to step into our this is a human thing,
Yes.
that step into our expectations of what relationship is supposed to look like, because that's not their way, and each one of them is very individual about the way they like and need to be approached, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Right.
So like Domino, I've learned from her that her style is she takes her time in processing things. She likes to consider the question or invitation that's being asked of her, and it's important to her that she knows that I I hear her and I let her know that I hear her and that she has a say, and that I'm not going to make her do something.
Yeah.
I know that's part of her trauma from the past.
Right.
Because and that's also a lesson for me too, right? That when I slow down, interesting, something I work on personally a lot.
Clearing my throat chakras. We're
Yes, slowing down. I know. See, they work with me too all the time. I'm a client as well.
Yeah. Hey, I always say that too. I'm like, I'm still a student too. I haven't figured this all out.
Yeah. And just a reminder of, when we slow down and we take some deep breaths and we get out of our head and get grounded and like really grounded and present, we hear and know so much more. And all of our senses come online. Is this what you wanted to share? Yes. And how much more powerful we are from that way of being.
Yeah.
And that's the way horses are just by nature. And so that to me is a piece that they're teaching, and that they feel is important to share today. Huh?
I appreciate that. And it can be so hard to slow down when we are sort of brought into this formula of what life is supposed to look like. And we just kind of keep walking that walk, and we don't stop to ask questions or to breathe and to say, like, is this what I want? Is this, how do I feel? How could I address this? How could I go to that next, like just taking that pause to take a deep breath and slow down. And I know I definitely have had a tough time. My energy by nature, I just like, I kind of talk fast, I move fast. And when I do slow down, like you said, getting on a horse, getting with horses, it was like home for you. And for me, that's exactly how I felt when I first stepped on a yoga mat. When I first, it was like, oh, I understood, I'm here, I'm home. This is magic. And getting into my body. We sort of talked about embodiment a little bit before we started recording. And just getting those cues, because they're actually so much insight too, of like for me, I'm listening to myself say this, and I keep looking up yoga classes or doing it on my house, doing it at my house by myself, but actually going to be part of a community. Look at her. She's like, yep, you're getting there. Being part of a community in person is actually really therapeutic for me, in addition to just being on the mat. So I appreciate that reminder from really both of them as well, but slowing down and taking those deep breaths. We need to hear that as much as possible. And I feel like I'm a broken record talking to entrepreneurs about, when they're in the launch or they're putting offers out there, and how it's so easy to get caught up in your head of like, what's the right thing? What do I do next? And getting trapped in fears and limiting beliefs and the worry and the stress and the anxiety. And it's like, how about you put your stuff down and you go outside and just take a walk? And it's almost like, for some people, they think I'm crazy when I say that, but that's actually why my business is, I think, moving in the direction it's moving, because I take more and more and more time. And I'm actually, while we're recording, this is the end of 2019 in December, and I'm looking out towards 2020, like, how can I create more space? And my team members are saying the same thing. We want to create more space. We want to create more flow, it's like, we don't have to work so hard. We don't have to grind out our life. And seeing you really living your dharma, being outside with your horses, it brings like just such a new, like another level of really slowing down, listening inward to get those messages. You're saying it without even saying it, but I'm glad you said it too.
I think that was what they were wanting to share earlier. Right. So again, just taking ownership of my practice, of me slowing down and stop freaking out about, oh my God, I have to channel something right now, pressure, and just being with them and taking a deep breath, and just then it came.
And I think that when I started, when I outed myself as a psychic and really started to, channel, I started off doing cards for people online, just doing kind of like rapid, just readings. And then guidance came to me and they're like, yeah, put the cards down. Okay. And I had the same feel, like, how can I possibly, it's not going to work. And, all this self-doubt. And when I could just breathe and relax, I wasn't trying, it was just coming through naturally. And especially, doing healing work, which, I mean, I'm sure this is exactly the same for you, which is, I have zero expectations for what's going to happen in a session, because every situation, every session with, even if it's the same person 10 times, it's entirely different based on their energy and what they need that time. And so I'm sure you feel the same thing, is that like, you're just open of like, okay, let's see what's going to happen today.
Yep. I check in with them and ask, what are they seeing for this person? What do they want to share with this person? And I will usually write that down for the person we're working with, so they have that message with themselves. And it's, what are they bringing today? Because this is about being present and in present time. And then, how do we bring all the aspects of us together and build those pieces?
Shall we introduce the rest of the herd? Or does Domino have something else to share? I don't want to rush her out the...
No, she's not invited. I think it's a fair show. And Domino, you gave a little support. Yes.
Good.
I know. Thank you. I know. You're awesome.
You're the best. We got you.
You are. I'm good with just sharing these two. That seems what was supposed to be.
Do you want to ask her why she chose you? Have you asked her that? Yeah.
Sarah? No, I have not. She has told me that before. Do I have it in this? Let me see. I know I wrote it down before, but part of it was around me being willing to stop and see her for who she is.
Yeah.
And find that deeper connection space inside of myself. Yeah. And really approach this from
like,
I know. Right, and approach it from a heart-centered space.
Yeah.
It's okay, so to be open.
So funny.
I know, she is.
It's so funny. I feel like when we first opened up our screens and we said hello, she was kind of like, okay, I'm just gonna look. And now she's like really showing off like who she is. Like, this is really...
Yeah, she likes to take her time to assess the situation. Who are we?
Yeah.
Slowly creating a relationship, right? That's a boundary too. There's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's funny, historically, some of my best friends have been introverts, and, the wallflowers, the quiet ones. And, and, it's always been like, I really resonate with that. And I think I'm an extrovert, but I'm definitely towing the line between introversion, because I like to be alone. I'd like to be alone by design, or just with my dog or whatever. Of course, now I have a family, so it's not that I'm not who I am, but growing up, being more extroverted, having introverted friends did bounce me off. It allowed me to kind of come back and slow down. And I took ballet as a little girl, like things that just helped me to have a place to channel all that energy, but also having friends who were helpful to it's like to match the energy. So I kind of had to come down.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciated that in my life. So she's cool. She's bringing that in too. Perfect timing for today of all days. It's so perfect timing.
Oh, good.
Is there anybody else who you want to introduce?
No, it feels like these two were the ones
I feel like
that wanted to guide this today. So I absolutely trust that.
I feel like that too.
Yeah.
So I would love to hear, so I'm going to go back to my first notes 3 pages ago. I'm sorry.
We could talk all day.
We really could. I think that's also what I love about this format and this podcast is I resonate so deeply with the guests I have on, that I really do feel that exact thing. Is like, I feel like I say on every episode, like, I could talk to you all day. No, this is the best episode. No, this is the best one. This is the best. I truly feel that way. So you and we kind of chatted about, the timing of this coming out in February, and you were talking about this sort of need and this sort of thing that you're seeing of this need for an in-depth personal development, more heart-centered work. And you were saying sort of like February, where it's like Valentine's Day, that kind of month. Do you see, well, first I want to ask about that, of sort of, what are you noticing? What is the problem? What are the struggles that you're seeing that are leading you towards creating that opportunity for people to work with you more in depth?
In terms of online?
Yeah, online, or whatever the presentation that you had, the offer that you have going on in February.
Oh, okay. That one. Okay.
Yeah.
So when I started offering online work for people, we just shifted positions here. She's still not gone. I wanted to give each one of them an opportunity to lead something. And so I look at, there already did one over the summer that was about the in-between space, and just how do you create relationship from that space. And sorry, I got distracted. And Domino's gift is, like we were talking about, of really being able to step into the heart of who you are and embracing that which is in your heart. And also just the physics of embodying that. Vulnerability is a big aspect of what she teaches. And, what I've learned from her is there's a whole physical element to that. And so that's a piece. And so the specifics are still coming together about what she's going to offer. And this would be like probably a 3 to 4 week group where people join us. It'll probably be an hour a group. That's what I've done in the past, and that seems to work really well. And we'll just connect with her, and I'll put together just a weekly series of the message that she wants to teach, and the component of really stepping into our heart space and embracing the heart of who we are, through guided meditation. And what else is she bringing into the group space? And if participants have questions specifically, and to make it really personally tailored.
And that's virtual? Great.
Yes, so people from everywhere can join.
Very cool.
Yeah, and I will record them so that if you can't be there live, you can still get the recording.
Oh, I love that. And I'm sure people who are listening, depending on when you listen, because they could listen to this in a year from now, that they can find more information about you and your work and whatever your current offerings are as well. And beyond the group stuff, you also do in person, you do one-on-one, couples, it sounds like.
I do. So teens and older, that's the client base that we work with. And and like we talked about before, people who just are not finding the traditional healing practices are fit for them. And we've stepped into more of a life coaching model.
Yeah.
Just and out of psychotherapy. I had a psychotherapy practice since 2003, and I noticed about a year ago that the herd was getting kind of feeling challenged and frustrated by not only the structure that we had to operate from that space, right? Because you can't include all of your weird gifts when in psychotherapy, and that wasn't being totally congruent, and I had to honor that. So we've shifted into that paradigm, and that's a better fit, right? Because then we can invite in energy work, we can invite in what nature is saying, what they are saying. I can share their messages with people, and it's just more expansive.
PTSD is coming up. Are you working with people with PTSD as well? Yeah.
That's my professional specialty. That's what I've been trained in all through my career. So yeah, I'm real comfortable with that.
Awesome. There's actually a group of people. I have a meditation membership called Mastery and Ascension.
Cool.
And I do a monthly channeled meditation and sort of Q&A. And then there's just support in the group. The group is just, it's my favorite. It's amazing. And that actually has been coming up a little bit more frequently. A couple members asking, like, do you have any meditations for PTSD? And a few people had recommend some of my tapping work, the EFT tapping. But maybe there's something that we can invite you in to do something special for them.
Okay.
Because I feel like, you know, I'm not really equipped. I shouldn't say that, but it's just like, I want to give them the best, you know, high quality, and I can't phone it in. You can't. So it's like physically impossible for me to be trying to do something that I'm not great at. But it's not that I don't do things imperfectly. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I would love to invite you to, we'll chat maybe after this and see what we can bring in, because I know that they would be so appreciative and really resonate with your work. So maybe.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation. Yes, I look
forward
to discussing.
Okay, great. So this is incredible. I feel like we've barely scratched the surface. I would love to have you all on the podcast again.
Yeah, we would love to.
It's been such a joy and so unique to be able to also feel like I'm receiving therapeutic benefits while we're interviewing a guest, multiple guests. So thank you for that. And I appreciate you holding this space for all of our listeners, for me, and to really open up the door for new conversations within people to see, wow, there's so many avenues out there, and this really resonates with me. There's something about this woman, and there's something about these horses. I got to get to know them, and maybe find their way to a barn somewhere near wherever they are. You know, I've always, as a young girl, I used to go to Oklahoma. I have family in Oklahoma, and I rode horses. My cousin, they had 12 horses on their property, and I got to ride and take care of them, you know, little bits when I'd go out for the summer or whatever. And I haven't spent lengthy amounts of time with horses, but the times that I have, and actually a friend of mine just got married like a couple months ago. We got to go horseback riding. My husband and I went because we were both like, we had the time off from the kids. Like, we both were like, do you want to go horseback riding? Like, yes. And we just were walking through the stalls and just connecting with the horses, and like talking to the ones that were like not in the stalls, and just watching. Like, it was so wonderful. And both of us were like, we got to do this when we get back. Like, we got to do this more regularly. Nice. So is there any advice or feedback you have for people, of course, connecting with you, but is there any advice that you would give people? I mean, the meditation you led was amazing as well, but you hear what I'm going, you know what I'm going. Any advice for people who maybe aren't so close in proximity to animals or horses, and how they can bring that into their lives a little bit?
You know, if they have a meditation practice, you know, just kind of like what we did today, knowing that you can always ask for a horse guide to come into that space with you. You know, what I've been taught by many of my most amazing teachers are that our helpers are all there. They're just waiting for us to ask. Totally. You know, and I forget that all the time, right? But just a reminder of, you can ask for that to show up. Or, you know, maybe as you're driving around and you happen to drive by a group of horses, and just notice, what do you feel just passing through their energetic space, right? Because their energy goes for miles.
Yes.
And so just to be aware of, what does that do for you? What do you receive just in passing through that flow?
Yeah. Love that. Thank you.
Or maybe go watch your favorite horse movie. I
mean,
there's so many awesome ones.
Would you want to recommend any?
Oh, well, like the ones that always make me cry. Secretariat, that makes me cry. Mm-hmm. And Seabiscuit. You know, and I know those are about two different racehorses, and obviously there are a lot of feelings and beliefs about that. But what I see about those two beings is that is who they are. And that is why they're on this earth. They were made to run, and that's the heart of, and they were sharing their amazing gifts. And look at like all the amazing healing they did for people and while they were on this earth. And that gives me chills.
For sure.
And I bawl every time I watch those two movies. Every time. Yeah, and then of course you go back to childhood and Black Beauty. Right.
For sure.
And also the Black Stallion. Oh my God. Just
oh yeah.
The photography in that.
Well, we'll put all of this into the show notes for sure. And actually, I do have some clients who I know are major horse lovers as well. So they're going to go bananas when they see this podcast is available. And I will invite people to listen again, not just listen to the audio, but watch the video too, because there's a lot of power in the video component of this podcast that I know just the audio only listeners might be missing out on, even though you might be able to feel it. There's this whole nother thing that you're going to see in the video. So, Sara, thank you. Thera, thank you. Domino, thank you. It's been so wonderful to have you all on the podcast, and I can't wait to connect again very soon. And all the listeners, thank you guys for listening.
Yes. Like Emily, thank you so much. Grateful does not encompass what I feel about connecting with you in this way. And I'm just glad that now we're connected, and I look forward to playing together.
Me too.
It'll be fun. And this was fun. And thank you to this amazing herd for showing up the way that, look, she's back.
Yeah. She said you wanted to say thank you to me.
That's right.
Thank you.
Yes.
So good.
Yes. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. So listeners, make sure you, if you're on Instagram, make sure you tag me and Sara at Horses Heart Soul. And again, you can find Sara at horsesheartandsoul.com. Make sure you check her out, seeing what's going on with her whenever you find this episode. Make sure you watch that video. And thank you for listening. I'll see you on the next episode.
Thank you. And thank you to all your community. So grateful to be with you all.